Hey, it's your boy Dustin from the Flying Chairs, the Rise podcast. And today, oh shit, you won't believe it. I got Peter Khoury here with me, guy from all the way from Australia. And this guy holds the holy grail of all evidence of alien DNA. This guy is awesome. And I've been waiting to reach out to him, and finally he's here. And we got my colleague Daniel here with us. So yeah, we're gonna have a great talk. So Peter, can you tell my audience where you grew up and tell us the awesome, amazing story you have?
Sure. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story on your platform.
Thanks.
I grew up a normal, run-of-the-mill child in a small town on the coast, northern Lebanon. I was born in 1964. My mum and dad were from neighbouring towns. So my dad's town was known for its beaches and swimming, and my mum's was known for its fishing, and it was rockery. Didn't have the sands that my dad's beaches had, or dad's town had. So I grew up on the beach and eating seafood most of my childhood. My uncle owned one of the best fish shops in Lebanon, and I was fortunate growing up to have that. But I grew up, with other kids in the neighborhood. We played cowboys and Indians. We went and pitched up tents and we camped overnight. And we thought we were survivalists at the time, although we were 100 meters away from home. But it was an adventure every time, climbing trees and picking fruits. And that's what I loved about growing up in Lebanon. And I did have the opportunity to take my son back there when he was about my age. And he loved it. He absolutely loved it. I wanted to pick fruit off trees, apples off a tree and so on. I grew up doing that and went to school for a couple of years there and didn't do too much schooling there. I think kindergarten and year one before we migrated out to Australia in 1973. I grew up in a Lebanese Maronite family. My dad worked overseas a lot, so I hardly knew my dad growing up. I'd see him for a couple of weeks, maybe twice a year. And I'd ask my brothers and my sister, who's this strange man, comes and sleeps here and he brings these bags with him. And they were like, that's your father, And I hardly knew my dad growing up. And it wasn't probably till the age of about 8 when we migrated out and, started to realize, that's my dad. And that's when I spent time with him as my father. Until then, it was my mum that brought us up. And my mum was Greek Orthodox religion, Lebanese, but followed the Greek Orthodox. I didn't grow up in a home where, UFOs were a topic or, we discussed it as a family or with the kids in the neighborhood and so on. It just wasn't part of our makeup, didn't come across it. The only thing I would say, but that came later, was there was a British program that was called UFO. And it was, these people with white wigs on, page boy cuts, and the UFOs were basically wheel hubcaps flown in the, and filmed. And it was funny, but I enjoyed it. But that's my introduction to what I thought, that's UFOs. Other than that, nothing. But prior to that, we were on school holidays and we're just playing in the neighborhood. And one of the kids called out, let's go play on the roof. And you've got to understand, in Lebanon on the coast, the roofs are flat. And they have cubby houses up there. They might have grapevines growing and they turn them into cubby houses and maybe a pigeon coop, or water containment, and you'd use it as a pool sometimes. But we just grew up. It wasn't dangerous for kids to go and play on the roof. Like the parents would tell you, go and play on the roof. They knew you're going to be safe. Unlike these days, So as we're playing, someone called out, let's go play. And the name of the family that the house he wanted to go and play on their roof were called the Amar family, which translated means the moon family. But anyway, we ran across, and as we're running, my cousin, younger female, was running last, and I didn't want her to finish last, so I let her get in front of me. And as we ran up the stairs, we got to the landing on the top on the roof, and as you stepped out, there was a steel security door, and it was a steel frame with a heavy set steel security door sitting in it. And when you opened it, usually, like we played on those roofs regularly, on everyone's roofs, and regularly usually when you ran through, one or two kids might get through, but then you'd have to have your arms out in front of you because the door was going to come back and swing and hit someone. So you knew it was coming. You just had to brace for it.
Right.
So I've seen like, 6, 7, 8 kids run, or 7 kids run through, and I was last. And as they're running through, I'm thinking that door's going to come back and hit that person, but it wouldn't. Then I'm thinking, oh, it's going to hit the next person, but it wouldn't. So as I ran through, I definitely thought it was going to hit me for sure. So I had my arms out in front of me, stretched out in front of me with my palms out, ready to palm it off. And it stayed open. And as I ran past it, I remember looking at it and watching it just open. It was like a magnetic force that kept this steel door open. Yeah. And as I took my gaze away from the door and I looked ahead, I noticed that all my friends and cousins were frozen like mannequins. Like they've taken 3, 4, 5 steps on the roof and then they've just frozen. And at the time, instantly, the instant thought that came to my mind was, oh, they're playing tricks. It's a game. I'm the last one on the roof, so I must be in. So I went up to them and I started, like, there was no movement. When I say mannequins, I mean mannequins. No movement, no breathing, no sign of life, just statues. And I went up and I started tickling them around the waist, trying to get a reaction out of them. And I couldn't get anything, no movement. I knew some of them were very ticklish, but they weren't responding at all. And then I tickle them under the throat, try to see if their eyes moved, if their crow's feet in the corner of their eyes moved. And as I looked in their eyes, I noticed they were just blank. It was, when you look at someone, you see that glitter in their eye and you see that it's life, it's a soul. I didn't see that. I just saw this plain look. And that's a worry. I mean, years later, I had a friend in Australia, I had a friend pass away, committed suicide. And when we went to the viewing, that's exactly what I saw in the eyes when I looked. And it was just that same look. And it reminded me of that, like it freaked me out a bit. Like I thought, yeah, well, was their soul removed for a time or something? I don't know. It was freaky. But as a kid, you process it in 2 seconds and you move on. So I went to the next kid who was taller than me. He was older than me. And I went to tickle him under the throat. And as I reached up to tickle him, I looked up and above us, I saw an X-shaped object. And this was an X-shaped, silver X-shaped object, big as a VW beetle, like the bug.
Yeah.
It was the rounded end was at the bottom. The pointy end was at the top. It was at a 45-degree angle. And there was a huge tinted oval window at the front of it, like from almost a quarter of the way from the top, all the way almost to the bottom, and it widened at the bottom and narrowed up at the top. But it was heavily tinted, and instantly I noticed there were 2 figures in there. I couldn't tell you color of the skin or color of their eyes or any features, but I saw like a silhouette, dark shadows that was sitting in this object. And they weren't sitting like our pilot would sit, like I'm sitting, for example, in a helicopter. They were leaning forward, I think, on the angle of the object. They were leaning forward. And as they were leaning forward, they would look at us. And it looked to me like they were shocked, like they were in discussion. The one closest to us, to our side, would look to the one on his left, and he'd be like rapid head movement. He'd look at him, look at us, look at him, look at us. And you could tell they were having some sort of conversation. And I'm looking up at this thing and I'm thinking, they're talking about us. I could tell that they were communicating with something to do with us. I don't know if it shocked them that I wasn't in the state my friends were in that, suspended animation, whatever you want to call it, that frozen time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and as I'm looking at this thing, I see it drop about another 5 meters. Now, originally it was probably about 30 meters above us, and then it dropped, and it dropped about just over 5 meters maybe, but it was lower. And at one stage I thought, geez, if this drops again, it's going to be close enough for me to throw a rock at it, or it's going to end up landing on the roof. And the next memory I have we're all downstairs on the bottom landing on the steps, and some of us were sitting on the steps and some of us were standing at the landing, like at the entry from the door. This is down on the ground floor now.
Mhm.
And instantly we were asking each other, like, how did we get down here? We had no memory of walking down the stairs. You know, we were playing on the roof.
Mm.
They probably got switched off and didn't even know it was like, to them, it would really have been a second, if anything. But
Mm.
yeah, we were questioning each other. How did we get here? You know, we were up on the roof. I don't remember walking down. And then we hear our parents on the street calling out our names. Well, a couple of the parents were looking for us and they were calling out names.
Sure, sure.
And one of the kids stuck their head out and said, "Oh, we're in here." So the parents walked up. I think two or three parents walked up and they were like, "Where have you been?" We're like, "We're up on the roof." And they're like, "No, where have you
Mm.
been?" And every
Oh,
time we'd say, there was a point where they just drew a line. And every time someone would say, "We're up on the roof." Now, in Lebanon at the time, you could smack your neighbor's kids. They were okay with it. It's not like now, you know, don't touch my child. It was like, discipline
right.
my child if I'm not here. So
Sure.
anybody that said we were up on the roof got a smack on the backside, you know?
Oh
And
man.
and they were like, if you were on the roof, they thought we might have been up to something no good, and you know we were being quiet not to get caught or something. But they said, if you were on the roof, why haven't you been answering? We said, we didn't hear you call. No, like, we've been calling, looking for you for over 2 hours, screaming your names. Look, yeah, and why wouldn't you answer if you were on the roof? Like, they could not understand how we could not hear them, and
Mm.
we ignored them, or you know, just neglected to reply and that. And we wouldn't have done that if we heard them. We would have responded.
Sure, sure.
And yeah, and we got grounded for a few days. Couldn't play with each other. You know, some were a week, others a couple of days. But we never discussed it. You know, and I never sat down with my friends and said, "Hey, remember that? You know, a couple of few days ago. Do you remember what happened there?" Yeah, it was just something that just happened, and you know, it was a memory that I've had. And I know that other people that were there might have seen it but never discussed it. You know, they might have noticed that it was there and didn't want to say anything, or didn't know if they needed, you know, could say anything.
Sure.
But just to add to that story at that house, my dad came on holidays for 2 weeks at one stage, and we were playing outside that house, and it was probably about 15 kids playing, ranging from the age of 15 to about, I'd say, 7 years old.
Mhm.
And there was one of the girls was doing her HSC, and she was sitting at the front door on a, like, almost like a recliner chair, but she was rocking it back and forth. And every time she rocked back, she'd hit the door. She'd make a noise on the door, like bang, bang. And she's studying, reading her book. And we're all playing. And this is, my brothers were there, like my two elder brothers, my sister, all our cousins. It was, you know, a lot of, over a dozen kids. And we hear at the back door, like someone had a battering ram, and was, every time it was timed with her leaning back and hitting the door, and then you'd hear a bang. And it was
Right.
like someone honestly had a ramrod and was trying to break the back door. So one of my brothers ran over and called my dad, and my dad had an old rifle where you powdered up in the barrel, and you had to, you know, yeah,
Oh
the
man,
whole, it
it
took
must
That's
be.
old.
3 to 5 minutes to
Yeah.
load it, you know. He had one of those. It was an ancient gun, but he had it. He loaded it up, you know, and he went, and all the little kids went with my dad. We picked up little sticks and went with my dad because he had the weapon. And all the older kids, the teenagers, they went to the other side of the house. So we split and we went around to the back. And as we got to the back, there was nothing there. Couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, while we're standing at the back, we hear this same noise at the front door now.
Mm.
And it was like, did it go through the house? Did it go over the house? Couldn't have gone around us. It was really strange, but that's something that happened. There was multiple witnesses that witnessed that
Hmm.
at that house at that time. It was around that time. So some strange things were happening in the neighborhood. And that house actually was opposite from where we lived, like right across the road. Well, now we've built a new place and it's actually right across the road from them. There's a vacant lot next door. And then behind them, there's just open fields. And in 64, it was even more fields than there that there are now. So, yeah, it was pretty easy probably for an object to hover around the area and not be seen by too many people. Um, in saying that, there were balconies around, and people could have been out there looking and seeing it. I don't know, but we didn't hear anything about it from anyone. Um, so yeah, and we migrate to Australia in 1973, and excuse me, and as a kid flying over Australia, I fell in love with it, but sitting on the plane looking out the window, I saw
That's
this
cool.
beautiful country. Oh,
Hmm.
just absolutely beautiful shades of greens and yellows, and
Yeah.
swimming pools in every second backyard. Um, yeah, it just and in Lebanon where we lived, there wasn't fencing between neighbors, and that it was just open. Yeah, no, it just I fell in love with it, and I assimilated really quickly, and grew up in a suburb called Marrickville, Dulwich, which in Sydney.
Hmm.
Um, they were rough places growing up there at the time, but they're upper scale now. I guess I couldn't afford to live there, but yeah. So I grew up in an area with a lot of Greeks and Italians and a handful of Aussies because there wasn't that was yeah, we outnumbered them at one stage for a whole while there.
Right.
But yeah, no, I had a range of different friends from different nationalities, and probably had the least of my friends were probably from the Lebanese background. Had a couple there over the years. Um, yeah, so once again, grew up normally as a teenager. Did the naughty things and ran amok at times, and then in uh, I believe it was about 84, something like that, 1984. I met a woman older than me. She was 11 years older than me. She had two children. I think they were 7 and 5 at the time. We
Mm.
stayed together for a number of years, and she had a colourful background where she came from. She's passed away now, so I won't not going to say anything too much about it. But yeah, it was a roller coaster ride, and eventually I went back home, and the reason I went back home was um, when I left school, I got a job and I went to visit a friend. He continued on to higher school. And as I was talking to him, I looked in the playground and saw a female playing basketball. And I said, mate, what's that? Who's that girl there? And he looks at her, tells me her name. And instantly I said, that's what I want my wife to look like. And then a week later, I went and applied to go to that school, and I got approved to go there. And
Huh.
yeah, I had to change my address and put my mate's address to get that done. But I did
That's
it,
funny.
and we ended up meeting and liking each other, and we
Oh,
went our
that's
separate
amazing.
ways for a while there, and got back together, and that's why I moved back home, and we ended up getting engaged and then getting married, and it was probably in it wasn't it was the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, 1988. We were sitting in the car park. I had my back to the driver's door. She had the back to the passenger door in the front seat. And we're talking, and we were planning a trip to Queensland. And something just said to me, "Look out the window." And as I looked out the window, I stuck my head out the window. I saw an object like a ball in the sky, big as like a baseball, but solid white. It wasn't emitting light, it wasn't shimmering. It was a solid, round light, like ice white. And
Huh.
it was traveling from north to east rapidly. And when I noticed it, saw how rapidly it was moving, too quick for anything I've seen. And I said to her, "You've got to come out and have a look at this." So we got out of the car. And as we're watching this, it stopped on the higher point star in the Southern Cross. Like it stopped on a dime. It just moved in
Whoa.
a rapid space and then just stopped. So it stopped there for a few seconds. And then all of a sudden, it shot this thick beam of light, white beam of light, solid beam of light. And um, I couldn't tell you how far it stretched because obviously it was so high, but to me, it was almost like a 30 centimeter ruler from the distance that I was at.
Sure.
And it had appeared, this ball of light would appear at two places at once, like from point A, it'd shoot a beam of light. You'd see it at point B, then it disappeared from point A, shoot a beam of light, appear at this new point, disappear from the point of origin again. And it was doing this erratically, like in a triangular formation, so rapid that my eyes were spinning at how quick this thing was
Oh,
making these maneuvers. It was unbelievable. And she was watching it with me. So I got this cardboard in front of my vision just to narrow my look to have a look at it. And as I was doing that, she said to me, "It looks like a war with the stars," meaning Star Wars. And I
oh
said
yeah.
to her, I had the impression then that that light was like a search beam and it was looking for something. But
Huh.
later on, I learned to realize that it was traveling. It was at two places at once because it was traveling so fast and disappearing from point of origin. And anyway, this thing just did it for about 2 minutes, and we were just like in a trance, just standing there
Uh-huh.
watching this thing. And then all of a sudden, it stopped at that top star again on the Southern Cross, and it just shot in straight up into the
Oh,
sky. Within like half a second, it was gone. Now, instantly, we obviously were talking about it, and we just could not wait. Like we were rubbing our hands together, saying, "Tomorrow, all the local news,
huh. Oh yeah,
newspapers,
sure,
radio stations, everybody's going to be talking about this because if we saw it, thousands of other people had to have
sure.
seen it. It was eight
Right.
o'clock and it was a clear night. It was one of the best displays. I mean, I've worked in security, so I've seen a lot of firework displays, New Year's Eve and so on.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't as spectacular in color,
Mm.
but it was spectacular in the technology, in that how could it make
How it moved
those
like that.
maneuvers were
Right.
unbelievable. Yeah, you just can't do that. And so that happened in February, and then in um, in July of that 6 months later, I had just recently moved back home. I was probably home for about 9 months at the time after 5 years of living away,
Yeah.
and I didn't mind my privacy. I stayed sort of to my own, kept to my own. Um, One night, um, 12th of July, I was sitting there, and my dad and I were watching this movie. And I hadn't spent time with my dad. I'd been living away from
Right.
home, and the 9 months that I was back, I hardly ever saw him because I was running around doing things. But had the opportunity to sit there and spend some time with my dad. So it was about 11 o'clock, and there was a movie started. And it wasn't one of the greatest movies, but I thought, I'm sitting next to my dad, I'll watch it with him. And that's my dad and I in the TV room, lounge room, and TV room, two rooms next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And movie started. It was about 10 minutes into this movie. My brother walks out of my bedroom, which he was asleep in. And later on, I'll explain something about this. I think he was made to do that. But anyway, he came out of my bedroom and he said to me, "Go watch TV in your room. I want to sleep out here." And, I thought, okay, I don't mind my privacy. I'll let it go. But I was disappointed I couldn't be there watching it with my dad. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I went into my room. It wouldn't have even been 2 minutes that from the time speaking to my brother, talking to my room, I walked in my room, I sat on my bed, and next to my bed, between the wall and my bed, I had this little coffee table with a little Toshiba color TV, which I'm looking at right now. It's sitting in front of me. I've just recently got it out of my garage and
Mm-hmm.
put it on display because it was part of the experience. Yeah, so I leant over and I hit the power button. And as I went back to lay on my bed, I cupped my hands like that behind my head. I
Yeah.
crossed my right leg over my left leg. And as I went to lay down, my head had not even hit the pillow. I felt something grab me around my ankles. And
Oh.
to me, it felt like it could have been, index and thumb around there, the webbing, but it could have been a device because as soon as it grabbed me, as soon as it touched me, I felt pins and needles just crawling up through my legs rapidly,
Whoa.
crawling up through my thighs, through my body, my torso, up to my face. My face was tingling like it was in hot oil or something. It wasn't painful, but it was just like all tingly. And then the
Sure.
top of my head, I described it back then like thousands of ants crawling through your scalp, but
Sure.
it felt
Oh.
like static electricity, going through my body. And as soon as it hit the top of my head, I became paralyzed. I couldn't move. Now, I would say right now, if my eyes were closed, I would have put it down to a dream. I would have thought it's a nightmare,
Sure.
it's a dream.
Sure. Sure.
but my eyes were open and I wasn't asleep. My head
Right.
hadn't even hit the pillow at that stage. I had just turned the TV on. And as I'm laying there and I can't move, and I grew up doing martial arts. Like I did three different types of martial arts. I played football, played sports. Um, I wanted to get up and whatever was restricting me, because I hate being
Right.
restricted. I'm
Sure. Sure.
claustrophobic at the
Oh
best of
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So as I'm trying to wonder, why am I paralyzed? Why am I feeling this paralysis? Or it's like pins and needles. Like when you get it, and it takes you a while to try and get it back.
Right.
That's what I was trying to do. I was thinking, come on, shake it out. It'll come out. But it wasn't. It was getting worse and worse. And then I realized I couldn't move at all except for my eyes. And that's when I looked at the foot of the bed and I saw a creature who was like 3 to 4 foot in height, um, in a robe, in a heavy set robe with a big hooded part to it. Um, Imagine a gorilla standing in front of you
Oh.
with a robe over it. That's what I saw. I saw
Oh.
the deep set forehead, wrinkles, the heavy set eyebrows, the wide
Oh.
nose, big nostrils, the big lips. It was gorilla-like, and it petrified me. I thought, you
Oh.
know, this has
Yeah.
got to be evil, and this is, maybe people say, oh, this is evil, and it's making him pay for the wrongs he did when he lived on his own and did things, But I didn't do anything crazy to deserve that crap. But yeah, but
Oh.
I I honestly thought, I'm thinking demonic, I'm thinking evil because of the way they looked, like
Sure.
they,
Sure.
they didn't do anything to harm me in any way or make me feel like I'm going to die, but just looking at them was horrific. And as I'm looking at this creature at the foot of the bed, with the corner of my eye, I catch movement and I see two more figures exactly the same, identical. I mean, they might have had their differences, but at the
Sure.
time, I
Sure.
wasn't noticing. They just looked, the same race. And they were closer to me. They were right at my side. And there was two of them. So now they were between me and my TV, which was really close. They would have had to touch the bed to be that close to me. And as I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is evil. This is a devil. I'm paralyzed. I'm never going to walk for the rest of my life. This is the thought process going through my head in the morning, because I'm trying to call out to my brother and my dad. I'm screaming their names out. I can think. My mind tells me their names, but they just, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the voice out, the sound. And I'm thinking, my parents or my brothers are going to walk in here in the morning wondering why I'm still asleep. And they're going to see that I'm paralyzed and I could be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. That's the way I was thinking.
Wow.
That was my
That's scary.
thinking process at the time. Yeah. And as I'm petrified and I'm sweating and I'm thinking, I want to get up and fight and throw punches, and get out of that room, but I can't. With the corner of my eye again, but to my left side, I see two figures, and these figures were tall. One was standing closer to my shoulder, and one was standing closer to my hip, between a wardrobe and my bed, and they were again close. And when I looked, when I looked over, I took full note of the female. One was a female. I could tell she had bigger chest, and um, she had the big black eyes, the goldish colored skin. Could have been a jumpsuit, an all over type jumpsuit. But to me, it looked like skin. Um, a longer nose, but not high ridged as ours, very low to the
Sure.
face, and then two big nostrils, um, funny slit type nostrils. And then where the mouth would be, I just saw like a pencil line. It was as if
Oh.
I
Right.
didn't see lips, I didn't see a split in the mouth, I didn't see teeth, didn't see a tongue. I just saw this thin slit. And the female actually had her mask. Look, through COVID, we know masks are about 4 fingers wide, right? Cover your nose and your mouth. Their
Right.
masks were about 2 fingers wide. They were white in color. They were 2 fingers wide. The female had it over her mouth, not on the nose, but over her mouth, because their nose
Hmm.
is higher, so it wouldn't have covered.
Sure.
So she had it over her mouth, and the male had it sitting under his chin. He wasn't actually wearing it. Now, from the second I laid eyes in onto the male, and I locked onto his big black eyes, oval almond shaped eyes, and looking at eyes the size of a cow or a horse,
Oh, yeah.
and I honestly felt like I fell into this void. It was like I was being hypnotized or something. It felt like I fell into this dark void, but this being was reading me and knew more about me than I knew myself. It's as if this being
Oh,
had contact with me in the past. This is what I was picking up there and then. And then as I'm looking over, I'm totally calm now. One second, I'm petrified. I want to fight. I want to jump out of my bed. I want out of that room. And as soon as I connected in his eyes, I just like totally calm, no
uh,
fear whatsoever. And to me, they looked angelic. Here am I thinking these are demonic looking, not that they did anything bad to me, evil. And then I see these guys and I'm thinking, man, they look angelic. They're goldish in color. I
right.
don't know what
Wow.
real angels look like. And anyway, as I'm calming down now, I feel totally calm. Um, the male that's closer to me leans over and he says, calm down. This is telepathy. This is telepathic. And I've been trying to explain it, and a lot of people relate to it, and contact me and talk to me about it. It's not hearing voices in your head. Okay. It's not a psychosis. It's not mental health. It's not, me saying, oh, I'm hearing voices and they're telling me to do this. No, telepathy is a knowing. It's like you think about something and someone knows what you're thinking, and then they think it, and then you know what they're thinking. It's
Yes.
a knowing. It's not a hearing. You're not hearing voices in your head. You know it. You feel it. That's how the only way I can describe it. It's a knowing and it's a feeling. And when he said to me, calm down, relax, we're not going to harm you, that's when I instantly became calm. And he's saying, we're not going to harm you, relax, it'll be like the last time, calm down, relax. And I'm thinking,
Mm. The
as
last time.
I'm running this through my head, I'm thinking, what fucking last time?
Right.
What do you mean last time? And and as he's saying that to me and saying, calm down, we're not going to harm you, relax. I see him, I see a syringe, what looked like a syringe, a tube, I should say a tube. I shouldn't say syringe because I didn't see a plunger to it or anything. It was a tube, and he was holding it like between these three fingers, and it had it. It was like a large syringe tube, but without a plunger that I didn't see anyway. It was just the way he was holding it. And
Okay.
then on the tip of it sticking out was like optic fiber. And on the tip of that optic fiber was tiny, tiny light. And he pointed it to this part of my head. This is as he's saying to me, calm down, relax, we're not going to harm you. Points it here. I feel pressure, like I feel, a indentation going through, a push, bit of force, but no pain whatsoever.
Hmm.
And black out. I black out. I instantly black out. Now, when I came to, I had been fighting this paralysis for such a long time, trying to, move and get up. And because I'm claustrophobic, I want to get up. It's like to me, just to lay there and let things happen. It's not going to work that way. Yeah.
Mm.
So, um, lost my chain of thought then. Where was I?
You were waking up, or
Yes.
you
Yeah.
wanted to get up because you were
Yeah.
struggling. Yeah. I just find it
So when I
amazing. Sorry.
when I got my feelings back, when I could move, I didn't think I was going to be able to move and jump out of bed. But because I'd been fighting it for so long, when I got my feelings back, I sprung out of bed. I couldn't believe how quick I got to bed. I opened the window, went straight into the next room where my brother and my dad were sitting. And I went to wake up my dad, who was the first one to my right. As I walked through the door, he was sitting to the left, sorry, on the lounge, and walked up to him and I started, wait, dad, wake up, wake up. Couldn't wake him. So I shook him a little bit. I couldn't wake him. And I thought, tapped his face a couple of times to wake him up. Nothing. I thought he had a heart attack.
Mm.
So I go to my brother. My brother's sitting in a single seat. My dad was on a three-seater lounge, just lying across it. My brother was sitting in a single seater, which that seat, actually, the back door and the front door lined up perfectly in the hallway. So if you were at the back or at the front, you could see right through the house.
Okay.
And um, I I was worried something's wrong with my dad. Then I get to my brother and I'm trying to wake him and he's knocked out as well. I can't wake him up. No matter what I did, and I'm calling out his name, I'm shaking him. So I slapped him 3 times, like pretty hard too. And he sort of snapped out of it. And the first thing that came out of his mouth, and he said it in Arabic, he said, I feel like I've been switched off. My brother's not into this stuff, right? So for him to make a comment like, oh, something switched me off, it just didn't make sense. But anyway, I said to him, look, I can't wake up my dad. I think he's had a heart attack. So we both got up, tried to wake up my dad, shook him a couple of times. My dad didn't wake up. My brother said, go get a glass of water. He put some water, splashed it on my dad's face, slapped my dad 2 or 3, 4 times. My dad came to. And the strangest thing that happened was my dad just looked at us, didn't say a word, didn't ask why you're splashing water on my face. Did I have a heart attack? Like, why are you doing this? Like, nothing. He just looked at us and just turned his head and just laid down. It was strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I'm talking to my brother, I said to him, this show had just started when my dad and I sat down to watch it. And I said to my brother, how long have I been in my room? And I thought it was about 10 to 15 minutes. And so did he. He said, oh, about 10 minutes. But when we looked at the TV screen, it was a blur. It was just the station had closed. And back then the station would close around 2:30, 3 o'clock. And there was just like a test pattern on the screen. And we realized that, at least 2.5 hours had gone by. And I got no recollection. Can't tell you what happened in that time. But what I said to him, I said, look, I'm going to grab a glass of water. I'm going to put it on my bedside chest. If I get up in the morning and that water's there, something happened. And if the water's not there, it's been a dream. So did that, got up in the morning, the glass of water was next to my bed, and I thought, okay, something obviously happened. So a couple hours later, I went and had a shower. As I was drying off, I'm drying my right leg, my shin, and I feel this burning sensation. And when I looked, now that wasn't there before. I'd never seen it before, never felt the pain from it before. It was like you got a cigarette and put it on my shin and let it burn. And it had like a 5 centimeter diameter and about millimeter diameter and about 2 mil deep indentation. And it had 3 prong marks, like in a triangular formation, distinct. And it was red raw. Like red raw, it just happened. You could tell it was fresh. Yeah. So, I looked at it. I didn't treat it with Benadine or anything. I just dried it up, put my clothes on. 6 hours later, I went down to pick up my fiance. That's the one I saw playing netball in the playground.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as soon as she got in the car, she was like, what happened? You've had a fight with someone. And I'm like, no, something did happen. I've got to talk to somebody. I may as well tell you. And she was the first person I spoke to and told about this. And as we're driving, I'm driving and she's in the passenger seat picking her up from work. And I said, yeah. And, when he's telling me to relax and that, he's gone and put a thing in my head here. And I went like that. There was dry blood under my fingernail.
Oh,
so
whoa.
I leant over and she goes, give me a look. She has a quick look and she goes, oh my God, Peter, you've got like a donut and it's got blood all in there. Yeah. And it's raised. You better get this checked by a doctor. I said, yeah, and you know what? On my leg, there's this mark. And I lifted my jean leg up to show her. And it was completely healed. It's a scar. It's still there. It's like a bullet hole.
Huh.
But it was healed. It was no longer red raw anymore. This is 6 hours later.
Oh.
It was red raw, like you put a cigarette there to burn. And then 6 hours later, the skin was healed. There was no redness, no mark, nothing.
Wow.
And that's something that interested the scientists down the track. They said in the future, take a swab because whatever they use to make it heal so quick could revolutionize surgery and stitches and so on. And then not long after that, liquid Band-Aid came out. You just put some liquid Band-Aid and put it sealed together. But I dropped her off at home, went to the doctor of 10 years. She was a great doctor over the time, helped my partner a lot, went above and beyond to help her. But I walked into her surgery, and when I went to see her, I said, look, doctor, she'd known me for 10 years. She knows I wouldn't make a story up like this. I said, look, I got an injury on my head. I got one on my leg. I'm going to tell you what happened. Whether you believe me or not, I don't care, but I'm going to tell you. As soon as I told her, she started laughing. She goes, oh, come on, Peter, you hit your head on the nail at work. I said, Doc, I've stepped on nails. I'll come and see you. You give me a tetanus shot. I walk away. It's painful. I walk away. you know. And I said, don't laugh at me if you think it's funny, because she started laughing real crazy.
Mm.
I said, send me to a psychiatrist, send me to, you know, a psychologist, but don't laugh at me. I walked out and the people in the waiting room were like, mate, that must have been the funniest joke she's ever heard. What did you tell her? And
Mm.
it, you know, it was embarrassing. Like the
Oh,
people in the
sure.
waiting room could hear her laughing. So I never went back and saw her again, which was a shame because she was a nice person, had some personal issues and that with
Sure.
her family. But to me and my friends that saw her, she was a great doctor. And unfortunately, I lost faith in her just because over that interaction.
Sure.
So um, after 1988 experience, I went on a search. I was just driven crazy to know what this is. I still didn't know it was UFOs and aliens. I hadn't read any books on the topic. I hadn't spoken to anybody about it. So I'm calling all these psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors over the phone, and everybody would hang up on me as soon as I said, oh, there was a presence in my room, you know. No, 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 we don't do that. Bang, hang up. Not even refer you somewhere else. So I spoke to a psychologist from Queensland, and he said to me, look, what you're saying sounds like a lot of people coming out with this now. It's called alien abduction. There's a group forming in Sydney. Maybe you should contact them. I
Oh,
did that. We went to the first meeting of that group. And actually, on the 4th of July, I'll be speaking at that group's meeting,
oh, cool.
doing a presentation. And we went there. We named the group, and two friends and myself won the prizes. It was 3 books. Got involved with the group. I became a committee member, and I still didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't know what abductions were, you know, what was, you know, the rabbit hole we were
Sure.
going to go down. I had no clue. And then one day during a meeting, a public meeting, sorry, one day during a public meeting, one of the committee members says, "Oh, look, there's a lot of people reporting abductions. We're going to put Peter Khoury as our support group coordinator." And I was like, hang on a minute. I don't understand what's going on to me. I can't do this. I can't help people before I help myself, sort of thing. You know, it was thrown
Sure.
at the
Sure.
deep end. But you know what? I'm strong enough. And if I believe in a cause, I'll speak out for it. I don't care what, you know, the ramifications are.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, you know, I think felt like I was in a better position than a lot of other people there because they were interested in lights in the sky in the 1940s and 30s. And, you know, but they weren't interested in the modern day and the
Abductions.
ground trace cases with evidence and that. It was just, you know, to them it was, oh yeah, there was a light in the sky. It was interesting, da da da. Anyway, I eventually after um having a couple of bad interactions where I saw samples that people had sent, and committee meeting member would throw them in the bin. And I
Mm.
thought, that's ridiculous. That's hard to come by. And there was one
Right.
in particular t-shirt that I still have. Actually, I picked it out of the bin and kept it. And I told him, I said, you can't throw stuff like this out. You never know what it's going to, you know, give you down the track. But
Sure.
anyway, I moved on. And in April 1993, I founded the UFO Experience Support Association, non-profit organization, and it had a lot of professionals on board, from psychiatrists and counselors and doctors and, you know, physiotherapists, hypnotherapists. It was just all across the board. But that came all after my 1992 experience with the 2 females
Yeah.
and the sample and so on. Now, I went public with my 1988 experience with very little evidence. You know, it was the mark on my head, it was the mark on my shin, it was my conscious recall.
Right.
Um, but I felt like I had to share that. And I didn't know what I was actually sharing. It was just putting it out there and hoping that someone relates to me, just like I related to the book Whitley Strieber. And that's another story
I was
on
gonna
its
say
own.
it reminds me of
Oh,
a lot of that case too. That the connection of like the fact that you had these experiences when you were younger, and it still kind of expanded throughout your life, and it just got like even crazier. And the fact that you have more evidence to share is more mind blowing, I think. But no, you're right. It reminds me of communion a little bit of
I'll
everybody
quickly
getting
tell you
together.
how I'll tell you quickly how I pigeonholed it into the UFO abduction. It was through Whitley's interview on radio.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Um, sorry. I was driving for work, and one day I was sitting in the car park having lunch, and I heard a radio interview, and it was Whitley Strieber. And for 45 minutes, I sat there, and it was like listening to my story being told by someone with extremes. You know, there were a lot I could relate to. There was a lot I couldn't. But his description of the beings, it's exactly what I saw. And I'll tell you now, if an artist came to me and said, give us a description, I couldn't get it as good as they did in the movie Communion and in the book. It's just perfect.
Mm.
So um, I my partner and I were in a bus shelter. Sorry, we were driving past the bus shelter, and there was the bus just moving, and we saw a big poster. That was our introduction to Communion, the book.
Oh, yeah.
We saw a poster, and it was black and white writing. It said, "They're here." Oh, sorry, they're coming. They're coming.
Mm.
2 weeks later, same place, same poster, but with the word "they're here" in white writing. We thought, what the hell is that about?
Mm.
2 weeks later, we're driving past the area, and I'm driving. She's in the passenger seat looking to that side of the road. And she's gone, oh my God, take a look at that. Now I'm driving, lucky I didn't have an accident. But I look and I see the front page of Communion, you know,
Yeah,
what
the
I
great.
saw, the big black eyes, the 7 foot tall, all that. And she was like, oh my God, that's what you saw. So we got the book. Now she read the book before I do. I got a picture of her walking into my parents' front yard. And she had the book in her hand, and I went to take a photo, and she put it in front of her face.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah. I've
looked
seen that.
iconic, like. But she read the book before I do, and she'd read it and get to work and ring me and go, Peter, you've told your story to someone, and they've written a book about it. Who have you told? And I said, I haven't told anyone but you and my doctor. That's it. And she was like, well, someone's heard your story and they've written it up.
Huh.
Anyway, she read it, gave me the book. It took me probably couple of months before I even opened the book up, and I'd read a sentence or a paragraph and I'd have to put it down. I just couldn't. It took me like 3 months to read that book,
Huh.
and found it hard turning the pages, not because it was a bad read, because it was confronting, you know. A
Sure, sure.
lot of things I didn't relate to, like him shooting and all that stuff, but it at least gave me something. And when I heard that radio interview, I was like, damn, someone else in the world has experienced something very similar to mine with similar beings. I
Yes,
couldn't
yes.
believe that. So that's when my search exploded. And that's where
Yeah.
you look now behind
As
me
I
and you
say,
can see
yeah.
books. Oh, I bought everything and read everything. And, you know, and then that's when in 1993, I decided a lot of people out there have had experiences, but they're too scared to come forward. I thought, I'm outspoken. I've already done it. I'm going to start a group where people can come and speak and not feel, you know, like someone's taking the mickey out of them, or, you know, calling them crazy and so on. And it was so successful. Like for 15, 16 years, we dominated and helped a lot of people. And actually now, after the podcasts I've done, I've been getting several people asking, you know, for a support network.
Mm.
And I'm happy to do it, time allowing me to. I'd love to. I'd love to retire from security and do this stuff full time, the UFO stuff, and that'd be workshops. For 15, 16 years, I held the biggest meetings, conferences, film nights in Australia.
Yeah.
We had guests like Professor John Mack.
Oh,
We had Bud Hopkins. We had Stephen Bassett from Disclosure at my house for 3 days, lectured
wow.
to groups of people. Oh, mate, I've had all like Travis Walton. I know.
Who's
All
that
the
woman
big.
from who's that woman from Australia and her son that came and visit you? Um,
Oh, Mary Rodwell.
yes, she's really
Uh,
well known in Australia, getting people together and yeah.
yeah. Mary started her UFO support network 10 years after me, I think in
Oh, okay.
2003. Yeah,
Okay.
but she made a mistake in the book claiming she was the first, and then apologized to me and said she'll retract it in the
Okay.
next book, but it never happened. But that's,
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't worry me, that stuff. But um, yeah, it all just started for me to try and get the word out. And that's the reason I went public. And let's face it, when I went public, early 90s, you didn't have this internet stuff, social media. You didn't have a lot of people. Now everybody's on board. You know, people are open minded enough to say, yep, this could be happening. I'm interested. I want to listen. I want to hear. It wasn't like that back then. You
Mm.
were putting a big target on your back and on your front, on your
Mm.
chest, and but I did it. I did it in the hope that I could reach people who have had experiences and give them the strength to speak about their experiences. And I know it's a cliche, but that's why I did it. It wasn't never about money for me. It was more about education, about connecting with people who have had these experiences, and it worked wonderfully. It really did. That's why Professor John Mack supported me and attended a workshop. He became
So
like a
cool.
father figure to me, and I was heartbroken when I got that phone call that he had passed away in England by getting hit by a drunk driver out of bloody. I mean, yeah,
That's
it was disappointing. May he rest in peace. But that he gave the field a lot of credibility, and I respect him for that. And same with Bud Hopkins. They're both past now, but they were pioneers in the field who put their
yes.
reputations on their line. We all
Yeah.
know what Harvard tried to do to Professor Mack. Sanction him and get him expelled and stuff like that. But as he said to me once, he's a tenured professor and he can study whatever he liked. And from his words, I'll quote him: um, "Fuck them. I'm at the tail end of my career because I worry about people like you in starting out in your career and you've got a big target on you." He goes, "I worry more about you than I worry about myself."
Mm.
He gave me a lot of good advice, fatherly advice, and that's to me, I'll cherish that for the rest of my life. But in 1992, I uh, I had sometimes you help someone and you nearly die in the process and you don't even get a thank you for it.
Yeah.
I helped someone and I I helped someone renovate their house and save them thousands of dollars, right? It was my best man at my wedding and I
Okay.
thought it was like family. But people that were working at his house and his father turned on me and for no reason I got stabbed in the chest. I got
Oh my
a
God.
broken bottle, ripped my arm. I don't know if you can see it, but my
Oh
arm
my
is
God,
ripped
dude.
open with a glass bottle. I got hit
Oh.
on the head with a shovel twice, sharp edge, not flat edge. They were trying to kill me. They
Oh
were
my
attempting to
God,
kill me,
bro.
and it was over stupidity. I put a price in for a price for my mate's father because I didn't want to do the job, so I put in a big price. He lied and told them that I instead of say 50, I said five and they took the job on and realized, and then they blamed me for it. So they took it out on me because they grew up together in their town in Lebanon, and they were from the same village. So they turned on the guy they don't know. I was nearly killed, and I lost 3 years of work. I couldn't work.
Oh my God.
So anyway, sorry,
No, I was just
this
saying, oh
happened.
my
This
God. Yeah.
happened
My
in May.
God.
Yeah, this happened in May. So July, I'm home. I'm still recovering from my head injury, and it was an extensive head injury. Like, well, I'm not going to lie about it and say, "Oh no, it was a scratch." Just anyway, it was. I'm recovering at home, and I had to drive my wife to the station in the morning to the train station so she can get the train to work. And this one particular, the 23rd of July, 1992, that's my dog.
Hmm.
I'm in my uh, I'm in my car taking my wife to the station, and what I noticed as soon as we pulled out of it, our street is the fourth house from the corner, right, to the next intersection. And I noticed as soon as I made the turn onto the road, taking me away from home, instantly I felt like I had to vomit. So I pulled up, opened my door, and I vomited this yellow green liquid. I
Whoa.
didn't eat or drink anything like that the night before. There was no food coming out, it was just liquid. So as I'm driving, the further I got now, the from our house to the station, it's probably I'd say it's 6 to 7, maybe yes, 6 7 minute drive. And the further I got from home, the more I had to pull over and vomit. Like actually, a lot of liquid was coming out of it. I couldn't tell where this was coming from. It
Whoa.
was like someone was pouring it in one end. It was coming out like it was crazy. I don't know how much liquid you can have inside of you. Anyway, the further I got, the closer I got to the train station, which is further from my home, the more rapidly I'd pull over, the more regularly I'd pull over and vomit and vomit and vomit.
Oh.
She got out and she said, look, just try and go to the doctor or something later today. I said, yeah, right. Drove off. As I'm driving back, I pull over, vomit, vomit, vomit. But I noticed the closer I got to my house, the longer the gap was between vomiting. And as I got much closer to my house, like just past the corner there, I stopped vomiting. Pulled into my driveway, didn't vomit. Opened the door, went into my house, didn't feel like I had to vomit. I felt like I connected back with myself.
Huh.
Anyway, I felt a little bit uneasy, so I went and laid in my bed, and I pulled the quilt over me, pulled the sheets over me in the quilt, and I laid down. I would have been 2 minutes, I reckon. 2 minutes just lying there, and I'm processing why was it that color? I'm thinking I'm not asleep. Why was it that color? That was a really strange color colors. And as I'm thinking that, I feel something jump on the bed, and I felt an indentation in the mattress
Mm.
around my knees, around next to my knees, and uh, at first I thought it could have been a cat or a dog, but then I realized we didn't have a pet, we didn't have a dog, we didn't have a cat, couldn't have been. And I thought when I opened the door, I wasn't all with it. Did a cat maybe sneak through, and I didn't see it? And here is friendly cat jumping on the bed to play. Um, as I moved the quilt and went to sit upright, I saw a naked female, blonde, Scandinavian, Basque looking, Nordic looking. I'm going to use the word Nordic or Pleiadian looking, sitting on top of me, completely naked. I'm not going to, you know, get into too much of the body features and that, but what I'll say, uh, she was milky white, flawless skin. I could not see a mark. I could not see, a mole, a beauty spot, nothing like that. Just plain milky white skin, like she hadn't been in the sun at all. I saw big blue eyes, which were I'd say 2 times bigger than a human's eyes, but to me it even seemed a bit larger because when our interaction happened, she was in shock. So when we're shocked, our eyes open up, and I think her eyes opened up even more than
Yeah.
what bigger they would have been
Sure, sure.
normally. And I her hair was she had a full set of hair, but wispy hair, like it
Mm.
wasn't fully thick, At places you could like see through, but at the
Yeah.
same time it looked transparent. The hair itself looked transparent, and that's why it made it easier to see through and that. And it was probably just past the shoulder length, blowing away. I sort of, if you know the from Charlie's Angels, Farrah Fawcett, how she used to have that blown back hair.
Yeah.
It was like that, and
Yes.
I compared it to that. 34 years ago, I compared it to Farrah Fawcett hairstyle, and
Yeah,
apparently it's back in these days. It's a big fashion thing now.
it is. Yeah.
But and more so, her features, her face. She had a longer face, humanoid, but not human. She had a longer face, but it suited her. A longer nose, a smaller reach in the nose, but longer.
Okay.
But it suited her face. Normal, large, nice, beautiful lips, red lips. And I compare it to the singer Cher. She's got that longer face. She's got the
Yep.
protruding cheekbones and that.
Hmm.
Probably, yeah, from her indigenous background. But this one, she was white. She was, say, pure in that. I didn't see any blemishes on her. But I could see her whole body. I could see her chest, which were well proportioned and no gravity. People have had a go at me at this, but I'm going to tell it how it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Where she came from, I don't think there's too much gravity in that it was well proportioned and, well, yeah.
Hmm.
And anyway, she had a perfect body. And what I noticed was that I didn't see a belly button. And if there was one, it wasn't big at all. It was like maybe a dot, but I don't even think so. I didn't see
Yeah.
anything at all.
Okay.
Um, I won't go into more detail other than that with that aspect of it, but she cupped the back of my head as I sat up, as I sat up, I noticed my astral body, my soul, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it. I seen an image of me come out and it was transparent, but I knew it was me. It was me. I could tell, but it was transparent. And as it sat up, it moved up and sat up. It was now facing this female, face to face. And then that's when I've come in and sat right up and I became one with that, my
Yeah.
soul.
You saw. Yeah.
The instant that happened, the instant, as soon as we joined, her hands went behind my head and cupped the back of my head like that. She brought me down to her breast and pushed my face into her left breast. As I've mentioned before, I'm claustrophobic.
Right.
This isn't a sexual like deviancy or anything, but
Sure.
I had my face buried in her breast. I put my hands against her body and I felt her body and I pushed away from her and I was able to push away. The second time she pulled me back to her, like I push away a little bit and then she dragged me back in. I'd try to push away. I'd fight a bit harder, but I was able to do it again, push away. And the third time she buried my face in her breast and I couldn't push away. And I was struggling to actually push away. And because my face was buried in her breast, I couldn't breathe. So to me, I sort of panicked a little bit and I didn't open my mouth and take a bite and, chew a piece off or something. No, it was like you pinch someone with your fingers. I pinched
Yep.
with my teeth. It was just like pinch.
Right.
But as soon as I did that, I felt like I swallowed something and it went hit the back of my throat and it was burning me like acid. I had
Oh.
acid burned in the back of my throat instantly. And I'm like, did I just bite her flesh, And
Oh.
as I move back, she's in shock now. She pushes me back. She puts her hands against me. I'm trying to push away now, but she pushes me back. And she looks there was another Asian female on the corner of the bed watching. She was sitting there watching, and she was sitting like on the back of her legs, on her calves, and
Huh.
she's sitting down on the side of the bed just watching, completely naked, Asian looking, page boy style haircut, darker toned skin. The eyes, I saw mainly blackened eyes with maybe a slightly little bit of white on the edges, sort of, and it looked like one was training the other, like one was instructing the other on
No.
what to do or how to do something. And I see the blonde look over at the Asian female, and instantly I picked up on telepathy that they were communicating. And she said to us straight away, like as soon as I bit and she pushed away, and I saw this shocked look on her face. I think they lost control. I think they might have had control with my soul. And
Yeah.
when my body and my soul became together again, I think that's when they lost control and lost the plot,
Yeah.
because she freaked out and she was looking at the other one and she's saying, he's done this wrong. Something's gone wrong. He's done this wrong. It's not like the last time. Something's gone wrong. And again, I'm saying, what fucking last time? Like, what do you mean? Like. And as they're communicating and I'm picking up on it, I can hear it clearly. Well, I can feel it. It's more knowing it than anything. And I start coughing and coughing and coughing, and I had this bad coughing fit, burning sensation. I look up and I'm getting this downloaded information, but at a trillion times an hour, and I'm thinking, I am not going to remember one word of what you're saying. What if it's words? I didn't know what it was. It was just like jumbled stuff, but there were things I could pick on, and later on it just hit me, and it was like translated to me what it meant. I was like, okay, I get it. And I start coughing again, mad, like crazy coughing fit. I look up and they're gone,
Mm.
just like I didn't see them appear. I didn't see them disappear. It's not like I was looking at
Right.
them and they just vanished. I didn't see how they disappeared. And I laid there for like maybe 30 seconds and I thought, what the F just happened? How did they get in my room? What is this? It wasn't a dream because I was awake. So I
Right.
thought, okay, let's go. I had a burning thing in my throat. It was like acid burning my throat. I thought, okay, you know what? Let's go to the kitchen and have a drink of water and some Lebanese bread. It might wash it down or, absorb
Right.
whatever this
Right.
is. So as soon as I drank a bit of water, it was like you added fuel to the fire. It
Oh
erupted.
no.
Oh, it was the worst. I'm coughing now. Well, you got to understand the coughing lasted 3 days. And in that
Whoa.
3 day period, in that 3 day period, when I'd start coughing, I would cough for 10 to 20 minutes. Like, I'm not saying a continuous cough. It was like for 10 to, I'd cough intermittently, be coughing, coughing. And my organs, my internal organs were aching so much. I was in
Oh.
so much pain. Now, um, I had the urge, I had the Lebanese bread, it didn't do much. Burning sensation in my throat. I had the urge to go use the bathroom. So I walk in the bathroom, and of course, as any man knows, before you pee, you get build up and you get release. Well,
Yep.
when that build up happened, it felt like my penis had been slashed with a
Ah.
thousand razors. Like the pain was excruciating. And
Oh.
I was like, what the fuck? You know, oh my, like it was painful. I was crying like a little kid. I had
Oh.
tears running down
Oh
my
my
eyes, you
God,
know,
dude.
and your eyes
Oh.
water anyway, you know, but I was in tears and I'm thinking, what is this? And I have a look. I didn't actually see any scratches like, razor or
Right.
scalpel or whatever. I didn't see that. What I did see were two hairs. One was half sort of wrapped and the other one was like an S down the shaft. But it was, if you got your fingernail and stuck it in your skin and pulled it back, you'd see that indentation, right?
Yep.
I could see the indentation that the hairs were in. They were already in an indentation and they were almost flush with my shaft, you know?
Oh my God.
So I thought, I've got to take these off. Well, I couldn't leave them there. You're going to lead to infection. So I thought, I'm going to take these off. So I started peeling them off and oh my goodness, the worst excruciating pain. Oh my God, they say, oh, your eyes water. Yeah, your eyes water. It was so painful to peel them off. And I regretted doing the second one, but I did it. And instantly I knew where they came from. I put them in a bag, I sealed them, I labeled them, and I stored them away. And it took me 3 weeks. Actually, I called my wife after I did all that, I called my wife and I'm talking to her for like 2, 3 minutes, and she's like, I'm sorry, who am I speaking to?
Oh.
I said, what do you mean? It's your husband, Peter. She goes, oh my God, babe, you sound so different. Probably from the coughing,
Coughing. Yeah.
I say as
Sure. Sure.
well. And I'm coughing as I'm talking to her. So I said to her, listen, if I'm not ready to talk about this now, but when I am ready, just link these coughing fits to the experience that I had. Okay, fair enough. 3 weeks later, I think it was around the 20th, 21st of August, something like that. I worked up the courage. And, yeah, I did feel guilty. Yeah, two females in my room, hard to explain. You tell her they're aliens. Everybody in the world's going to go, yeah, yeah, aliens. You brought hookers to your house, mate. You got busted. You're telling your wife. But why would I, if I had brought hookers to my house after vomiting for,
Yeah.
all that time, vomiting, feeling sick, I'm going to come home with vomit in my mouth and, oh, can I get two hookers to my house this morning, please, at 7 o'clock? Like, it's ridiculous,
No,
but
it's so
people use
stupid.
that as an excuse. It's like crazy. Anyway, where are we? I decided, okay, it's time to tell her. So we sat down, we started talking about this. And as I told her what I just told you, um, it blew me away how she reacted to it. And it wasn't even like questioning me and wanting to know things. It was like she trusted me. She knew I would never, ever invite two women to my
Sure.
house
Sure.
while she's out working and earning money and, working hard to earn us a living because I can't work for 3 years and she's the one earning the living. I'm going to go and bring hookers and waste our money on
No.
not one, but two hookers, mind you. And look, I've said this in the past. I've said it over the last 34 years now, coming into 34 years. I've always said, I don't think it's racist. Okay. People can shoot me down. They can try and cancel me for it if they want, but I don't think it's warranted. Back then, 34 years ago, and now I'll say it, and I said it at a show, and they completely edited it and made my story sound stupid because it wasn't in content of what, you know. Okay, people can say sexual fantasy. I get that. I've been there, done that as a younger man. But I love Asians. I've got best friends that are Asians. I love their food. I love their culture. I love everything about them. But I find some of their women are so attractive, but I'm not like, sexually attracted. I go, I want to marry into that culture, or
Sure.
it's not
Sure.
being racist. It's just a choice,
Yeah.
And I don't even like, I'm Lebanese. I want to marry a Lebanese woman. I've married a Greek. My partner now is Greek. So it's got nothing to do with, it's just to let people know that it's not a sexual fantasy.
Sure.
There's no need to use that as an excuse sort of thing.
No.
But yeah, it took me a while. And her reaction was like, look, you didn't do it. You didn't invite these people. It's out of your control. Even if you wanted it to stop, it wouldn't have. What can we do about it except try and learn what it's about? Like, what is this? And that's when we started to really, touch base with a lot of people in the field, and people found my story interesting. And I got people from all around the world who'd come to Australia and they'd want to speak at a conference, and they'd ask me if they could speak at mine. And even other groups that would bring someone out would offer them to us, because we had a really good setup. We got across to a lot of people, and I was achieving what I started out to, and that's to spread the word, to educate people about the abduction phenomenon. And then I kept that hair sample quiet, that whole case. Vivian knew about it, my ex-wife. John Mack and Dominique, his partner at the time, knew about it. Two of my best mates I've known now for nearly 50 years, they knew about it. There was a handful of people that I had spoken to about that 1992 case, and I kept it pretty quiet. One day we had a film crew, two females producers came in, interviewed me. Now, Bill Chalker was here at the time. He's a Australian UFO researcher and author. He wrote the book. He actually wrote the book, The Oz Files.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It's a pretty expensive book to get right now. It's like copies are going for $750 or something. They're very rare. And then he wrote in 2005, he released Hair of the Alien.
Oh shit.
DNA and other forensic evidence of alien abductions. Got to get his name up there, Bill Chalker. He wrote that book eventually, and that's when a big story come out. What my mum divulged to us, which happened in 1964, we didn't hear about it till 2004, years down the track. So these women were a bit cocky. They were like offering to do a documentary about my story, but they were making cocky remarks, like real smart ass, typical main media remarks at the end of every UFO story. You have to make a joke out of it. Other people take it too seriously. So one of them said, look, Peter, if this is really happening to people, there must be some physical evidence. There must be some, it's like a sexual assault case. There's got to be, sperm, maybe, hair, something. There's got to be something. And the way they were going on about it and the comments they were making annoyed me so much that I said, you want to see evidence? I'll fucking show you evidence. And I went and grabbed the two hair samples that I had. And I said, there's evidence, physical evidence.